Video Part 5. Hi, Assalamualaikum. This is Evi Sayono. Today on March 2nd, 2026 at 6:54 a.m. in the morning, I will continue my reading of a book entitled Teaching English as a Second or Foreign Language, 4th edition. Authors Marianne Celce-Murcia, Donna Brinton, and Marguerite N. Snow. Published by Heinle Cengage Learning, National Geographic Learning, a part of Cengage Learning, Boston, 2014. Today I will still be reading Unit 1, Foundation of Methodology. Chapter 1, an overview of language teaching methods and approaches. Marianne Celce-Murcia. Page 7, Column 1, Paragraph 3. More recent approaches to language teaching. In addition to the three approaches whose historical developments have been sketched here, there are four other discernible approaches to foreign language teaching that developed and were widely used during the final quarter of the 20th century. Some of them continue into the early 21st century. In this section, I briefly describe key features of the cognitive, affective humanistic, comprehension-based, and communicative approaches. The cognitive approach. This approach was a reaction to the behaviorist features of the audiolingual approach, influenced by cognitive psychology and Chomskyan linguistics. Cognitive psychology, in brackets Neisser, 1967, holds that people do not learn complex systems like language or mathematics through habit formation, but through the acquisition of patterns and rules that they can then extend and apply to new circumstances or problems. Likewise, in Chomskyan linguistics, in brackets Chomsky 1959-1965, language acquisition is viewed as the learning of a system of infinitely extendable rules based on meaningful exposure, with hypothesis testing and rule inferencing, not habit formation, driving the learning process. Features of the cognitive approach include page 7, column 2, paragraph 1 and 2. Bullet point 1. Language learning is viewed as rule acquisition, not habit formation. Bullet point number 2. Instruction is often individualized. Learners are responsible for their own learning. Bullet point 3. Grammar must be taught, but it can be taught deductively, in brackets, rules first, practice later, and or inductively, in brackets, rules can either be stated after practice or left as implicit information for the learner to process on their own. Bullet point 4. Pronunciation is de-emphasized. Perfection is viewed as unrealistic and unattainable. Bullet point 5. Reading and writing are once again as important as listening and speaking. Bullet point 6. Vocabulary learning is again stressed, especially at intermediate and advanced levels. Bullet point 7. Errors are viewed as inevitable, to be used constructively for enhancing the learning process, in brackets, for feedback and correction. Bullet point 8. The teacher is expected to have good general proficiency in the target language, as well as an ability to analyze the target language. The effective humanistic approach. This approach developed as a reaction to the general lack of effective considerations in both the audiolingual approach and the cognitive approach. In brackets, example given, Curran, 1976, Moskowitz, 1978. It put emphasis on the social climate in the classroom and the development of positive relationships between the teacher and the learners and among the learners themselves. It argues that learning a language is a social and personal process and that this has to be taken into account in the methods and materials used. Following are some of the defining characteristics of the effective humanistic approach. Bullet point 1. Respect for each individual, in brackets, students and teachers, and for their feelings is emphasized. Bullet point 2. Communication that is personally meaningful to the learner is given priority. Bullet point 3. Instruction involves much work in pairs and small groups. Bullet point 4. The class atmosphere is viewed as more important than materials or methods. Page 8, column 1, paragraph 1. Bullet point number 5. Peer support and interaction are viewed as necessary for learning. Bullet point 6. Learning a second or foreign language is viewed as a self-realization process. Bullet point number 7. The teacher is a counselor or facilitator rather than the ultimate source of knowledge. Bullet point 8. The teacher should be proficient in the target language and in the student's native language, since translation may be used heavily in the initial stages to help students feel at ease. Later, it is gradually phased out. Page 8, column 1, paragraph 2. The comprehension-based approach. This is an outgrowth of research in first language or L1 acquisition that led some language methodologists to assume that second language or L2 learning is very similar to L1 acquisition and that extended exposure and comprehension, i.e., listening with understanding, must precede production, i.e., speaking. In brackets, Asher, 1996, Krashen and Terrell, 1983, Postovsky, 1974, Winitz, 1981. The best known of the comprehension-based approaches is Krashen and Terrell's natural approach, in brackets 1983. The characteristics of the comprehension-based approach are: Bullet point 1. Listening comprehension is very important and is viewed as a basic skill that will allow speaking, reading, and writing to develop spontaneously over time, given the right conditions. Bullet point 2. Learners should begin with a silent period by listening to meaningful speech and by responding non-verbally in meaningful ways before they produce language themselves. Bullet point 3. Learners should not speak until they feel ready to do so. Such delayed oral production results in better pronunciation than if the learner is expected to speak immediately. Bullet point 4. Learners progress by being exposed to meaningful input that is just one step beyond their level of proficiency. Bullet point 5. Rule learning may help learners monitor or become aware of what they do, but it will not aid their acquisition or spontaneous use of the target language. Bullet point 6. Error correction is seen as unnecessary and perhaps even counterproductive. What is important is that the learners can understand and can make themselves understood. Page 8, column 2, paragraph 1. Bullet point number 7. If the teacher is not a native or near-native speaker, appropriate audio-visual materials must be available online and in the classroom or lab to provide the appropriate input for the learners.